Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to StrangeCast, Player One vs. World Life Is Strange podcast. This is the second part of our episode 80. I'm one of your co-hosts, Adnan. My co-host Adam is here. Adam, you here?
I'm here. I'm getting turned.
Yeah, and I'm moving past you very quickly because we have a special guest on here. Life is Strange True Color star, The Expanse actor, BAFTA-nominated actor. Should have won the BAFTA, but BAFTA-nominated actor. The audiobook narrator of Heatwaves, which we'll be talking about. Erika Mori is here. Erika Mori, hello. How are you?
Hello.
Hooray.
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure having you on here. You're actually making a record number of appearances on here. I'm free for the actors, which is always great to have you on here. And it's always great to talk to you about Life is Strange, among many other things as well, and probably throwing a couple of jabs at Adam as well whilst we're at it. But we'll
but I'm getting turned.
Here. Yeah.
Well, you've asked for it a
Bye-bye.
couple of times. You've had it a couple of times from me, Adam, but we'll get into that. But before we start as well, I hate to doing this. As always, if you are new here, please do consider dropping subscribe on the channel, like the video, share with your friends, help support a very small channel, and your StrangeCast episodes are available on all podcast services, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you want to get them on, they're all available there, so you can check us out there. So do follow us and do rate us as well. And I'm doing that intro very fast because Erika Mori, hello. To start with,
Hello.
congratulations on a very lovely marriage. You've tied the knot
Great. I
this
have.
summer.
Thank you.
How is life treating you as a married person?
It's great. I mean, as I was telling y'all before we started recording, it's pretty similar to how it was before. You know, you sign that paper and it's kind of the same. Although we adopted a puppy who we've named Gracie Lou Freebush, and she is an absolute terror.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, she's
Comment down below if you know the reference, by the way.
and if you don't, God, so brutal. So brutal. Yeah. This congeniality it's like a staple. It's a classic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you gave away the answer now.
Well, yeah, I did. Sorry.
Erika, there's one thing that's always been bugging me for a while, because obviously we spoke to Zandries when he came on here, told us about the entire experience of the lead up to the engagement, everything he did. And then during that as well, when me and Adam got his exposition on his backstory of becoming an actor, this man told us he studied Meisner, and you saw mine and Adam's reaction. If you go back and watch this, we were like hanging up, and we were like, Erika loves that. And he just was like, I think his exact reaction was, oh my God. I was like, how does it feel to be married to a Meisner man himself?
I mean, like super lame. No,
Super lame.
he's, he is who he is, and we all contain multitudes and fun little surprises, and that was a fun little surprise for me. Unfortunately, I was already like in love with him when I found that out, so that was my bad. Like, I did not. So, like, people out there, do your due diligence. That is sort
Before
of like
you fall for somebody.
Yeah, the PSA here. Before you give your heart to someone, make sure that they don't even know about Meisner. How about that? Like, if you're
It's like,
on
does the name
ads-
Meisner ring a bell for you?
Yeah.
No?
When I say
Perfect.
Meisner, or when I say the thing that you just said to me back at you,
Yes.
how you respond is super important.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that you
But
haven't
I'm glad
changed.
the wedding it still happened.
No, I haven't
Everything's fine.
changed. I hate change.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So how was the wedding as well? Because it must have been
was-
very...
Yeah, it was fabulous. We had it in Hawaii because that's where I'm from, and we wanted
Nice.
family to be able to be there. If you've ever seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding,
Yes, many
it
times.
kind of feels like that. My side is the Greek side, like really
Oh.
loud, a lot of drama, lot of talking, a lot of people, big family.
Mhm. Yeah.
And his family is, lovely. I'm obsessed with them, but smaller. Like, they understand boundaries. In fact, they not only understand them, they will respect them. And that's just not the case
Whoa.
for,
Yeah.
a large Asian family. if you guys ever want like advice or feedback or anything like really unsolicited that's kind of personal, let me know.
Okay.
Because I have a group chat for you?
I got my own family that does the same thing, so
Yeah.
I'm set. So yeah, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But it was lovely. Like we had like a great group of family and friends there, and a bunch of people came out early, and so we got to do like a bunch of fun like day trips with friends who some of them whom hadn't been to the island at all, had never been to Hawaii, and so yeah, it was fabulous. It was really, really great.
Nice. When you walked down the aisle, did you tell yourself don't trip up, don't trip up? I'm just wondering, did that come into your head where it's like don't trip up?
It didn't, but I was like really gripping my dad, like real hard. Like he was,
man.
Yeah, he was necessary for that. And I learned that like, because I was walking around in this wedding dress and I was tripping on it, like throughout the morning. Oh, yeah. And I had to like learn to like kick out. You have to like kick your little foot out. Sure, not like a goose step. I was corrected.
Good.
It's not that high.
As a Jewish man, I appreciate
that. Not that high. But yeah, so I learned some like tips and tricks throughout the day. Yeah, it was great. And Han was our officiant. And so that was fucking chaotic. It was great.
God, dude.
I have to ask this because obviously we saw like one of the photos where it's Katy, Stace, Han, and they're all at your reception.
Yeah.
But one thing that I was always wondering for me as well was the main man, Mr. Webb Pickersgill, there, and did he bust any moves on the dance floor?
I wish. He was unable to attend. I mean, I don't know why he didn't plan his 2003 family vacation to Hawaii around a relationship and a wedding that he had no idea was happening. I mean, it was kind of inconsiderate and like deeply selfish of him, but
boo Webb. We have to boo Webb on Twitter.
Man, but he was certainly invited, and we would have loved to have him there. And I'm sure he would have like rocked up with some serious dance moves.
You should have got him on a Zoom screen on the wall, getting him to dance for your reception and be like, you're not going to be here, and you've intentionally booked your 2003 holiday here. Yeah. I want you on my screen. Yeah. Quick dance. My wedding's
exactly.
Perfect.
It's so honestly the least he could have done.
I gotta ask, because I am unashamedly saying this. I cried at the reception, or not the reception, the rehearsal. I cried at the rehearsal, dog. Like Liz is my wife. She was just walking down in a rehearsal, and she's just wearing a Mountain Dew shirt and jeans. And bro, just the idea of her coming down, and I was gonna get married to her tomorrow. I was like, dude, bawling. Like I was like, no, oh crap. So the day after, I was like a little bit more prepared. So I gotta ask, anybody crying? No.
I mean, rehearsal is really important. No, sobbing or anything like that.
You're all grown people.
No, we're like adults here. But I did. I was like wrapping up my vows while we were getting ready that morning, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna read through them. So that I had my Stace was one of my bridesmaids. And so I had my bridesmaids read through it, and they all cried. And my mom, she was, months before the wedding was like, I don't want to sit in front. Excuse me? She was like, so I have been watching Married at First Sight. I was like, okay. She was like, and I have been sobbing uncontrollably. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but no, Erika, you don't understand. It's not just like like a tasteful sob. It's like the type of sob where like you're afraid to breathe because you don't know what sound that like inhalation is gonna like flick by as like the air comes through your lungs. That sort of
That
sobbing.
was how I cried at the rehearsal. I'm not kidding you, dude. I couldn't breathe. It was terrible, man.
I
So
mean,
I
there's
feel for
always
your mother.
one. There's always one, but she like really held it together. I was like, did
Dang.
somebody give you a Xanax? Because you are handling this remarkably well.
Yeah, because like now you're prepared for it. Because like the day
Yeah.
of the wedding,
Mhm.
you could see in the pictures, like I am like holding a bag, like no,
Yeah.
tough man right now, big bear man. I was like, I can't.
Do you look like
But
constipated where everyone's like, is he okay? Like he looks
you can
really,
see in the
like,
picture that my best man
stiff.
is looking for me, just like, come on, let it out.
break. I know you want a break.
I was
Was,
like, no, I got this.
Was Han Soto on his best behaviour there as well? Because we knew that he pulled a couple of pranks on Erika Mori during the True Colours set.
Han was given some guidelines and only one like absolutely no that Zach was in charge of, which it was like no snakes. Nothing was it's irrational, but it's like
Yeah.
very deeply rooted fear of snakes.
Yeah.
And Han,
It's completely rational.
thank you.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yes.
yeah, Han was, of course, and everybody knew it, was of course planning to do something involving snakes. And Zach had to tell him, I want to say 3 times, like off to the side, where I was like, you need to handle this. I cannot handle this.
Really?
You need to handle this. And he would, yeah, he was like, hey, buddy. Like, she will lose her shit in like a not fun way because she will be so scared. So we can't do that. And he was excellent. In fact, one of my friends who's getting married next month was at the wedding, and she asked for his officiant speech because she thought it was so good, and she wanted to provide her officiant with an example of what good looks like. So he did great. He had people laughing, you know, it was wonderful.
I was gonna say, I'm not trying to like accuse you of any. By the way, I hate the term bridezilla. I fucking hate that. Like, I'm sorry that Adnan has to bleep that out, but
No,
like,
I'm not
I
even
hate
doing
that
it anymore.
term.
This is going on for.
Oh, thank God.
There's already like
that
a couple of when
bridezilla
Erika Mori
bull.
comes on. There's like, I'm not even.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't even censor myself.
Like, so that stated, I don't like the term bridezilla, but like a lot of people don't understand when you're planning a wedding and there's a lot going into it. You get to the day of the wedding and there's just so much tension where you're like, hey, I've done a lot of planning here. Chill. It's just like, and they're like, wow, they're being a bridezilla. I'm like, you don't understand. Months has been put into this project, and you're about to just crumple it with snakes. So
with
no,
snakes. I mean, we Zach cut that off like pretty early on, and I think like we're old now, and we care about much different things than we did, let's say, if we had settled down in our 20s. So we didn't have anybody there that we hadn't met. We give a shit if like family wasn't on the list, if like we don't have an adult relationship with that family. It was just like, we're gonna make this as like chill and as representative of us as possible. Like a lot of people, my mom was like, so you're not having colors? And I was like, no, that's fucking stupid. No. Like,
I love your mom. Can we get her on here next?
Oh man. Yeah. Let's get her on here and like one glass of wine, because she's like this little thing, and she's something else.
Maury, sorry, I was going to say your grandma was ill not too long ago and thankfully got better, but was she at the wedding? Because I imagine it must have been very special for her to be there.
Yeah, she was, and thank you for asking. Yeah, she's much better, and she was like the main reason that we had it out there.
Good.
I wanted to elope, but Heidi didn't. That's my mom. Heidi did not want that, so we did not do that. But yes, it was a huge reason. You know, she's in her 90s, and so she's not flying places.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was able to be there, and it was great. It was really nice.
Bro, everything you're saying about the wedding, just like, nah, we're not chilling with that. No, we wanted to elope. Not like, you get to a certain point in your life that you're just like, nah, I'm not here for your show. Like you went to Hawaii because it was special for your grandmother. That's why. But all these people in their 20s going to debt for their wedding.
Yeah.
I'm just like, dog.
Yeah.
Why? Like, make it special, but don't go to debt.
I've never got when people invite their friends. It's like 100 plus. I don't get that. I would sooner have like a wedding of 20
It's
people.
bull, dude. And
Yeah.
it's such bull.
Well, and it's like culturally it can vary, right? Like my mom's the middle of three sisters, and her eldest sister, so my aunt, when she got married and she was the first, my grandfather like worked at a bank. I think their wedding had like 500 people, and a lot of them were, you know, like friends of my grandparents, because that was, and I think that can also be the case in, you know, different families, different cultures, where that is sort of the precedent set. Pro tip is just wait. You just got to wait them out. You got to wait until like you're well past, you know, the fertile teenage and 20s, like child rearing years, when you're supposed to be settling down and putting those birthing hips to use. Wait it out. That's what I say.
Yes.
Wait it out. People are going to get exhausted, and then, you know, they're going to focus on other things, so that by the time you're like, surprise, we're going to get married. They're like, no, I guess you can do whatever you want. You're basically almost dead. You're so old. So that's my tip, is just wait it out, and you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I was going to say, I got married when I was 25, she was 23. So it's just like the pressures were on. And I love how you said like, oh, your childbearing years. I'm pretty open about this. So like, I'm not like breaking any secrets, but like, we're infertile. Like, we're an infertility group. Like, we've been trying since like year one, because of that pressure. I was just like, you're young, have kids. And just like, when we weren't producing a kid, they're like, what's wrong with you? It's like, nothing. Yeah. It's just that
so inappropriate
things happen.
You ask.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love how there's one response that I love, and so anytime like someone says like, well, why don't you have kids? And we say, oh, we're infertile. Oh, they get so sad. Like, no, we just enjoy the practice.
Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Practice makes perfect, baby. That's it. I love that response. I'm like, yeah, I'm using that from now on.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah. But no, I love your advice. It's just like, wait it out. Don't rush it, because a lot of people are like, oh man, I'm 23. I'm not married. I'm like, yeah, if you're not married, it's fine. Yeah. It's not like a format in life. Just do what you want.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I've had a bunch of people ask me like, well, you know, why did you wait so long to settle down? And it's always like, because I didn't want to settle. And yeah, like, I have never been the person who, I didn't think I would ever get married. I've never imagined like what my wedding would look like. I don't think I played wedding. Is that like a thing you play when you're little? That just was not, it wasn't part of my make-believe. And so I was focused on my career and, you know, the other relationships in my life that are just as deep and enriching and quite frankly important. Like your friendships and your colleagues and your family. And I think that a lot of primacy gets put on, you know, your domestic partner, you know, for good reason. But I do truly believe that it takes a village to like live a full life and be a true like multi-dimensional person, and putting effort into friendships gets so much harder as you get older. It's so hard to make friends as an adult. And so
But do we want to make friends though?
Yes, well, I'm an extrovert.
Oh, good for you.
Like it takes more effort.
Yeah.
So when you find people when you're an adult that you connect with and you click with and you feel seen with, like putting just as much effort into making sure those relationships are like healthy and mature and thriving, I think is just as important as finding, your the person who becomes your the person who can watch you pee on a toilet. That's like the height of marriage that I've learned.
I would love
was
your
gonna say,
10-point
being there
list of priorities. That would be quite outstanding. Like, imagine what we're going to see on there. Must be able to use Microsoft Excel like a genius. Can watch me pee in a toilet. Loves Kemi.
Well, like brushing your teeth because you're running late.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Just like there's things in marriage. It's like it's so much better than dating, like all the time. I wanted to get marriage counseling from this one guy because he asked like the best question. We didn't end up because he was just overbooked, but he asked me one question, and I was just like a sample question. He's like, "Yeah, I asked this question to all the new couples. Bathroom time, is that your alone time or can they come in?" And I'm like, that's a good question,
it's a great
dog.
question.
Because like you don't think about that,
No.
What's that?
No, you don't think
Alone
about that
time.
at all.
Alone time for you, Adnan?
Yeah,
Just
I'm on
alone
TikTok
time?
sending Adam videos. That's what I'm doing. It's like, that's my alone time.
That's when you send me
when
the
you're
TikToks.
cultivating your friendships. That's when you're really nurturing those other relationships.
You're just straddling the toilet and going, kiki.
Yeah, I'm keeping my streak on. Me and Adam got a 27 message streak at the minute. 27 days in a row.
20.
Yeah.
Let me get the actual number up while we're
That's pretty
talking here.
good.
We are at
That's
28.
28.
28.
Erica, we can talk
Yeah.
about the wedding for ages, and I think we'll go into Life is Strange Heatwaves as well, because we can talk about the work that you've done. That, however,
Sure.
before that, we had Stephan Frost on here after you when we spoke to you about The Expanse. Now, Stephan Frost said something quite, Skeeter Denise himself came on here. Said something quite damning as well. He was like, Erika Mori sends him 6 out of 10 TikToks. Now, we pitched that to Zandrews at the time, and Zandrews was a pure politician
6
of it.
out of 10?
It was a 6 out of 10, he said. So we pitched this. You pitched this to Zandrews. Zandrews did the most politician response. He's like, she doesn't show me that much. It's like, my taste isn't like that. And he's like, he did it in the proper way, because it's like, he's not going to get the marriage blown off at that point. But
He
it was
just walked in the door, so tell the truth.
so I have to ask you about that, because it was a pretty brutal thing from Stephan Frost. He was like, Erika Mori sends 6 out of 10 TikTok. So do you actually send?
Well,
6
he
out of 10
said
TikToks?
that his sense of humor is a ham falling on the floor, and that slapping sound from the ham on the floor is a
Which
10
is
out
good.
of 10.
That is also good though.
Yeah. We have different senses of humor. Mine is better.
The ham falling on the floor.
Yeah, and his is weird. Like, we do communicate, with like words and phone calls and face to faces, but a lot of the communication is sending TikToks or reels to kind of suss out, is this funny to you? Like, how wrong are you about what's funny?
How
And
rude.
it just it helps us get to know each other a little bit better.
Do
I
you need
think.
therapy?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done you dirty with 6 out of 10.
Wow, that is really brutal, and I will take it up with him shortly.
Please do. Don't tell him that we told us this. You say you watched the episode.
No,
if
please
anything.
tell him. Give me full credit.
I'm definitely going to tell him. Like 1,000%.
These reporters said that you gave a
Mhm.
6 out of 10 for my TikToks.
Well, and I feel like he probably told you that on purpose to be hurtful, maybe. I don't know.
He said it on the podcast. It's recorded.
It's
on there.
yeah, it's forever now.
It's public knowledge here.
What a dick.
Saying that though, I did send Adam a video where it was like a piece of bread just lying like this and it fell over. And I just said, put underneath it, I said Frost humor.
Yeah. What? I mean, sometimes the humor will align, and that's awesome.
Sure.
But it is pretty rare.
Yeah.
hey, he's a guy. He just loves being wrong. I can't do anything about that. I'm only in charge of me, you know?
Yes, it's very Marcus Aurelius of you.
Erika Mori, Alex Chen again in 2024. Who could have thought it, eh? You did a great performance in True Colors. That was a great game that we saw from that. BAFTA nomination came from it. And then you get to reprise the role in 2024. We had Brittney Morris do a spin-off novel, a prose novel on this. You were on the audiobook. We actually promoted that on our Instagram. Erika Mori liked the first post, and then the second post you didn't like. But do you know who did like the second post? Anastasia Davidson. And do you know who follows our page on Instagram? Anastasia Davidson. And do you know who doesn't follow?
I thought you were going to say
Erika Mori.
I thought you were going to say Frost both times.
Well, yeah, Frost hasn't liked a fucking thing. So
exactly. But Stace is our OG here. She was supporting it. So I was like, if Erika Mori's not going to like it, Stace liked it. If anything,
you probably caught Stace like after or before, either like before or after her trying to like post something on Instagram. So, and that takes hours. I mean, you don't hear from her, and like the first thing you think is like, oh my gosh, is she okay? Like, has she been abducted? No, the first thing, she could be gone for like 72 hours. And I'd be like, no, she's posting. She's posting. We have to leave her be. We have to leave her alone. This takes like every fiber of her being. She cannot do anything else, let alone like answer the police who are knocking at her door because she has not responded to anyone.
God.
Yeah.
This is going to make a great reel for Instagram for you, Stace. But anyway, we'll continue on here. What was it like to get involved in Heatwaves?
It was really cool. I have never done an audiobook before, so put that on the resume now. And I really enjoyed. I like time in the booth. I think it's really fun. And I really enjoyed working with Blackstone. They were the publishers for for the audiobook. And yeah, it was interesting to come back to a character that obviously means a ton to me, but that I haven't embodied in a couple years. So yeah, it was a nice little stroll through a character that I love.
Did you find it strange getting back into the character?
Was the life in the booth strange?
It always is. It always is.
I will ask this: like, what is the difference between audiobook booth being in and then voice acting in the game? Is that any different? Is it similar? What is your take on that?
Well, she's actually performance capture. She wasn't even voice acting. She was doing the full performance.
That's true.
Yeah.
That always blows my mind with the motion capture in games, because like you are is that recorded voice as you're doing the motion capture?
Mm-hmm.
So as an audio guy myself, I just feel like your audio engineers, that's a nightmare.
Oh, that is what our audio director would say about me. No, I'm kidding.
Nightmare.
He's actually in town, and we're going to dinner tonight. So
your audio engineer?
Yeah, our audio director is in town.
Really?
And so we're gonna go grab a meal with him. He's amazing.
Is he on Instagram
but yeah,
as
there's
well?
like
We'll tag
several
him
different ways in a game that they capture audio. One is through performance capture, where there's you're mic'd up while you're in scene. There's something called
thanks, babe. Another beer.
Thanks so much. Whatever.
Yes, please.
That was right there. Then there's FVO, which is like face voiceover, where they're just capturing your face, and the audio. And then there's actually just VO that we do in the booth. That for Life is Strange is generally like the internal monologues for Alex when you're looking at hotspots and things like that. That's the majority of what that is. So
are you a natural audiobook listener yourself? Because I know you're an avid bookworm. We spoke about this in the last podcast. But are you a natural audiobook listener yourself? Because your narration was obviously on point, perfect, as I expect from Erika Mori. Well, like,
I'm not. No, I've tried listening to audiobooks, but I think there is something for me about retention. of what I'm reading, and I retain it much more seamlessly when I'm reading it. And even I notice between like a digital book versus a physical book, I much prefer the physical books. And so, yeah, I listen to.
Do you judge audiobook listeners?
No, I mean, okay, there is like one friend who I judge for being an audiobook listener. We were in a book club
Thanks,
together.
Dave. Oh, another beer.
Wow. How many you got down there?
1 million.
1 million?
Yeah.
Well, less than last time, but we'll let it slide.
Yeah, before it was a Billy. No, it's the same one. She just got me a bottle opener. I forgot I needed one.
You can't open it with like your teeth.
No, I'm not an animal. I'm just from Philly.
He's not a Heatwaves character.
From Philly. Shit.
We're all animals in Philly. We're just we're just pretending to be men and good at things. But in honesty, all people from Philly, we're all just phonies.
Yeah, I hear you guys don't even have thumbs. That's why you couldn't open that, huh?
That was a stretch of a burn, but yes.
We have opposable thumbs. Read a book.
And you're saying Philadelphians don't? We're not evolved enough to have thumbs? Which is true. Which is very true. Philadelphians, out of all the major cities, I would say like Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia is probably like the least evolved. As a Philadelphian, I can say this: we're the least evolved.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah, Detroit has car manufacturing. Philly has steaks and water ice.
I mean, I think I would take the sandwiches over the car manufacturing.
Okay. Duly noted. Yeah, you're on my good side now.
Yeah.
All right. So let's try and get this back on track. You need to stop drinking as much. And back onto Erika Mori. Did you get to read Heatwaves before you read the audiobook, or was it when you went into the booth you got your first experience of it?
I did get a copy of it prior, and so I was able to know how many characters I needed to voice. So that is different from what I did for Life is Strange, where I was just the voice of Alex, and if I was doing body capture for any other character, they were obviously going to not use my voice if they needed any audio for that. So that was different. And what was interesting about reading an audiobook is there are other people listening to you to tell you when you're being stupid, which is like, hey, that's not actually what the thing that you just said. It's not what's on the page, you fucking moron. And they don't say that because they're professionals.
Sure.
But
if you were directing, that's what you would say.
I mean, I guess we'll have to wait until I direct my first audiobook. No, I think I was surprised because, I mean, you are reading, like 80, 90 pages a day. Mm-hmm. You're just going through it. And so it's funny to see like what your eyes skip through or what your brain finishes in the way that it thinks it should be finished. And it's like that's not the word. It's not even close to the word.
It's funny you say that because I equally do audiobooks and physical books, but the one when you pointed out that there's people directing you, the one book I'm thinking of is Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, 7 Rules to Life. I can't remember the actual title, but the one he just released. But because Arnold has such a strong accent, at the end of the book, he's giving credits to the directors, like, oh, they're telling me that, you don't say it like this. You don't say neighbor, you say neighbor. So you gotta he's like saying like all these people are behind the booth telling you pronounce it wrong. So he's like thanking all these people. And I was like, that's funny, dude. He's like going off the rails, like saying like, yeah, I suck at speaking. So thanks for all these people.
Well, it is cool. Like, Blackstone did give me sort of like a list of pronunciations beforehand. So I felt like I was, pretty well prepared when I stepped into the booth. doing like switching back and forth between voices. Sometimes I'd be like, who's talking right now? Who do we think is talking right now? And how did they sound? What did I do for their voice? But yeah, I think it was a great experience. It was a good stretch as a performer. And yeah, I think I would like to do more. My roommate,
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
My roommate, who I lived with obviously before moving in with Zach, she does audiobooks, but it's mostly for libraries. And she would, come home and talk about how fatiguing it is, both like mentally, but sometimes vocally, sort of depending on the type of book that you're reading. But yeah, it was certainly an experience that wasn't on my bingo card, but I'm really glad that I got it.
No, it's funny you say that it's something you would enjoy, because I know from me and Adnan, sometimes we read articles, just like a couple paragraphs of articles, and we're just like fumbling through, like, give us a minute, folks. Just recently, I recorded an audio trailer for the music pack that I just released, a 30-second trailer. It took me 10 takes, 30 seconds, because I was just like fumbling through, like, oh, come on, Adam, you got this. And then once again, I was like, oh, come on. So it's funny that I can sense that reading an audio book, like what your roommate said, it can be taxing, but you seem really encouraged by it. It seems like it's something you want to pursue again.
Yeah, I enjoy reading quite a bit, and
as we've discussed before,
I think it certainly gave me a new level of respect for the craft of writing, narrative, the craft of writing dialogue, and fully fleshed out characters. Like, it is cool to see that on the page in different formats and be asked to perform it. I think it's unique too that I have been asked to do that as like the same character in two different formats, right? Like, game writing is very, very different from novel writing. The way that it branches, especially for narrative adventure.
Oh yeah, I remember listening to Gary Whitta talk about doing like the different audio logs from just a Telltale series. So he did Walking Dead, and so between that and also writing a movie script, he's like saying, like, I'm never doing that kind of game writing ever again, just because of the branching things. It's just too much. But no, it is kind of wild to like think about that. Like, there's different strengths in writing, and that will depend where you go in your writing career.
Yeah, and I think it's, I know Brittney does write for games as well. And so to be able to flex into some of those different spaces where different mediums, different artistic mediums require you to write in a different way. I would even say, like, writing for business is a skill unto itself, and it is totally different from, writing narrative. Yeah. But it does take a skill, and I certainly am in awe of people who are able to do it well.
Speaking of Brittney Morris as well, did you speak to her before you went into the studio or after it for any notes or anything, just in case? Like,
yeah, I, like a psycho, I like slid into her DMs because I had questions and about some of the characters, or there's some music in the book as well, and wanted to know. We were kind of going back and forth of like singing it, but I wanted to, like, I don't write music. Like, if she had something in her head for that I could mess with and try and come up with. So yeah, and it was really nice reaching out to her. She was very generous with her time and her thought process. And yeah, I don't know if that's common to have like an actor or a VO artist like reach out to the author.
I would think it's pretty common. Yes. Like,
I don't know. I mean, that is certainly the way that I prefer to work. Having been an actor, and, you know, the most recent show that I did was a stage production of The Mousetrap, and Agatha Christie is not around anymore for me to ask questions to.
yes.
You know, but I have originated a couple roles, including Alex, and it has been really nice to have the folks who are the creative catalyst for the story at hand to ask questions and get a deeper insight. I think it really does help with performance.
I have this horrible picture in my head of you at Agatha Christie's grave being like, it's Erika Mori here.
Just tapping on the pencil. Excuse me.
That's right.
Pardon me.
So
No, I'm.
oh, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, no, I would want, as somebody who writes very small scripts, by the way, but like anytime I email somebody like a script that I have a part in, I want them to ask me questions. I want them to like ask as many questions as they want, because my writing might be confusing. In fact, my biggest partner in my creative space, Marcus, sometimes we'll switch it around. It's like, Adam, I think you should take this part because you can get that inflection better. I'm like, you know what? You're right. I am funnier than you. You're correct about that. But no, like I would hope that if I would write for somebody who is as talented as you, by the way, for them to like come in and just say, hey, I have some questions. I'm like, thank God you're not just going to this blind. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am the type of person who will utilize every resource that I have available to me. I know that there are performers who don't take that route. Like, they will use what is on the page exclusively. And a lot of times that's like all you have, right? Especially when you don't have access to the writers of some of these works.
Which would be a shame. Yeah.
But you also, you know, like in theater, you have access to your director and your dramaturg and the people doing costume, right? And the people who are in charge of like props. And so like you have all of these resources, and you have those resources as well when you do games or when you do, you know, film and television, or when you do audiobooks. It just might look a little bit different. And so that's always been my nature. It's probably because of my background in consulting, where you have to, like, you would be a monstrous idiot to not use every resource that you can find.
Yeah.
Do you know when you did the audiobook, I found it really interesting because, like, obviously, for example, yourself and Stace, you do a lot of your work in theatre in Colorado. So, like, I've kind of been limited to what we've seen from you. Obviously, we've seen The Expanse, we've seen True Colours, but I said to Adam, even if I wasn't interested in the audiobook, for example, like any of the story, for example, I found it interesting to be there 8 hours with just your voice, because it showed a different range of like voices, the skills, etc. How did you find it moving between the voices? Because like, even for example, on Nick Adams thing here, which is the fact that, you know, we had Steph Gingrich as a big part of Alex Chen's story, and those shades of Katy Bentz in there, it was like very like, you know, it's almost like you're paying respect, your deepest respects to her character. I'm just kind of wondering, like, did you get into her mindset, and then also to kind of like balance out the other actors? Because Southern Erika Mori is currently in my head at the minute, and I can't get out of my head at the moment.
Southern Erika Mori.
That's right. Well, I have played Shelby from Steel Magnolias. But yeah, the code switching between characters was definitely challenging. And I was telling you guys, again, prior to starting, my voice was exhausted, shredded, especially at the end of the first day. Cause like I knew that there were, you know, this whole cast of characters. But there are a lot of male characters in this book. And when you think about like my speaking voice is very close to Alex's speaking voice. So if my speaking voice is here, Alex, or Alex's speaking voice is here. Steph's voice is a little lower, and she's got kind of that like vocal fry thing going on. So you're sitting like a little lower in your vocal range, and then you layer in like men in their 60s or their 40s, right, and some in their 20s, and so you're like playing with range. Or you can play with range, but then you can also play with like accent or like speed. So there are like a lot of different volume. Like there are a lot of different ways that you can adjust a character's voice than just range. But it was definitely interesting because I couldn't go back and like change something that I'd done before, you know, for a character. Yeah. It was like, no, ma'am, you're locked in. We can't go back to page 10. We're at page like 104. So we're going to have to keep going.
So I have two questions now. And I'm just going to ask them same time. So here we go. You said your vocals were pretty fried, and a lot of voice actors have that secret remedy to a shredded voice. My first question is, what is your personal remedy to a shredded voice? And what is your tip to oncoming voice actors to say that, like, how do you get that range? What should you work on personally? Any tips to like young voice actors trying to get into the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, my trick, which is also really difficult for me, is to rest your voice, which means don't talk.
That's hard for me to do.
So maybe don't, if you've got like a day of facilitating at your day job, you know, jump into a VO audition at the end of that day, unless you like the quality that your voice takes on after that. Just know that if they hire you, they will be expecting you to have that quality of voice for that character. No, but I think, you know, like tea really helps, tea and honey. The audio director for True Colors told me a trick that like taking a bite of an apple helps with your voice when you're doing voiceover. It, you know, like they're always like, take a drink of water, not vodka. I don't know if that's like a tip.
Yeah.
I couldn't say.
But
yeah, like
not vodka,
but an apple.
I got to write that down.
Yeah. I thought was super, super interesting. And I think for upcoming folks who are interested in voice acting is, again, tapping the resources you have available to you. I guarantee, even if you are in, you know, not a major market, that there are classes that are available to you. In fact, Jennifer Hale has a company called Skills Hubs, and you can sign up and you can take classes. You can listen to talks by veterans of the industry, directors, casting producers, like to get tips and tricks from people who would actually hire you and who would actually direct you. Yeah. And so there are a ton of resources out there if you're getting started. And, you know, the barrier to entry it's never been lower, quite honestly. Like you can set up a play in a closet to do your auditions or tape your reel. But accessing those resources, the only barrier there is you Googling what they are.
Sure.
And then practicing, I would say too, is as cringy as it is to hear your own voice, you're never going to get better if you don't, right? You're never going to be like, oh shit, is that what I sound like? I don't want to sound like that for this character. So you have to listen to yourself. It totally sucks. But
no, I love that last part. Just listening to yourself. And I would even say you're probably even thinking like, forgive yourself if you think that you're bad. It's like, no, this is the best you have right now.
What is
Maury doesn't do bad.
What is bad?
Ever.
Oh,
I think it's.
you weren't in that room.
I
think that's like so objective. Like, what is bad? Like, they
I
were
think we're
looking for
only
something specific for a character, right? Like when somebody is writing that character, or when a director is looking at auditions or listening to auditions, right? They're looking and listening for something that can embody certain characteristics, or certain, like, it can be emotional or physical characteristics, but like bad, you know, like
that's
you
only
give it
defined by the actual artist.
your best swing when you read what this character is. What do you think they sound like? Why do you think they sound like that?
No, it's funny because like I think it's only the artists that say it's bad. I've never ran into anybody like a director is like, man, that's just a bad actor right there. Like we as artists are just always saying like, oh, that was just an awful take.
Sure.
I will say, and me and Marcus agreed on this. My very first EP where I wrote a story, and it was between Marcus and Kylie Brown, who voices Rachel Amber, and me and him just saw what she could do with voice acting, and I'm like, oh my god, Marcus, it's night and day. Like you're getting schooled by Kylie right now. But she is experienced, she practices, she knows range.
She's got a toolkit that she can draw from.
Yeah. And it's just like you can see that skill set between someone who is just starting voice acting and then a pro. And it's just wild how much practice can do. So if you ever needing that, the listener, the essence of life between Marcus and Kylie Brown, you know the difference between someone who, you know, is just starting and then a seasoned veteran. It was wild.
I mean, to be fair, I am not a seasoned veteran. I am just starting. Like, yes, I did a shit ton of VO on True Colors, right? Like I have a lot of hours, a lot of time, but in terms of, you know, like different characters, or like I am at the beginning, and you should never be afraid to like learn, like take classes. I know people, you know, even in the community here, in the theater community, where they are working, but they like think they're too good to go and take classes again, which is so strange to me. Like that's definitely not an ethos in the dance world, which is where I do come from, where like it's insane to me to think like, oh, you're a professional dancer, you don't need to take class anymore. What? What is that? And so like, you know, you can be, you know, Jennifer Hale, or you can be me, or you can be somebody who is just like starting and thinking that this might be a fun thing that you could be great at. Sure. I think all of those different levels benefit from being a lifelong learner and not letting ego get in the way. Like, oh great. Yeah. You were the lead on Baldur's Gate. I bet you Neil still takes classes, like still learns.
Do you bet, or do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I'd bet my husband that he still does. Like I'm pretty sure like that, like the best people in their craft are not afraid to like to continue to learn, or to like humble themselves in a classroom.
Maury,
like,
but also on top of this as well, I think it's all interesting saying that where people keep learning. But one of the things with this as well, this is a different kind of work and line of work for you. But when we spoke to Zandrews himself and we were talking about AI, for example, and like generative voice and stuff, he said that he saw your reaction and you were like, he was like, maybe we can tweak certain kind of sounds and stuff. And you were like, no, like as an actor, it's kind of like a complete no. But I'm kind of curious how you feel about it, because currently SAG's been on strike recently for AI. AI is continuing to grow. And I have like deep ethical questions with it. So for example, even for like, you know, it would only take one person to quickly find a couple of clips of Erika Mori and then put Max and Alex in a room and is using your voice without any kind of permission. are you fearful of AI? Are you kind of like worried about where your acting career goes from here? Like, because it seems like there's a pushback from unions, and unions are a good thing for you guys, but it seems like a perpetual cycle at the minute, just from an outside perspective at the minute, that you guys keep fighting and then something comes back up again.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how useful constantly being fearful of it is. Like, it's certainly concerning that studios are reticent to provide good faith clauses in a contract around this. I think that this is an opportunity for performers to lean in and be part of the solution, right? Like, our generation, we've stepped into the rules of how film and television are made, right? Like, we weren't there at the beginning, or even like, we know when they were moving from silent film into the talkies, we weren't there during like that shift to have a voice, or but we do now, right? Like, we are the ones who would be incredibly impacted, but we're not the only ones. And when you think about the ecosystem of what it takes to make a game, we're there too. And so rather than saying like, nope, you just have to talk to my agent, I don't want to, like, why would you do that? Go be in the room. Like, offer to be in the room to hear what the other creatives are saying and are thinking about how do we ethically utilize this new technology that it's Pandora's box. It's here. It's going to continue. How do we, I'm thinking about Deck 9, how do we ethically, utilize AI in our pipeline without fucking over the artists, the artisans who make these games live.
Yes.
And I know that there are other developers, other publishers, other people in the game dev ecosystem who are thinking that too. And I would just, encourage performers, whether you're SAG or not, to have a voice. Like, that's what SAG is trying to do now, is they are, they are trying to give voice and agency, and representing the artists and the voice artists and the interactive media performers, the performance capture artists in that, to say, like, you can't do this without us. And so I think, yes, fear is always the initial reaction, because there is a lot of unknown, and there is certainly a lot of risk in what AI can and cannot take from human voice actors. But I think there's a lot of opportunity here too, for us to be a part of this next phase of making art, and burying our head in the sand and telling them to go talk to our manager, our agent, is not, it's not going to make it better. It's just going to make us less informed, and it's going to make us feel like it's happening to us versus that it's happening with us. And so I think that's what SAG is really trying to do, is the sort of like, let's do this together. It's here.
Are you part of SAG yet?
No, not yet. It's a tough gig to be SAG here in Colorado, where there are not a lot of SAG projects. But I think if I get one more SAG project this year, I will have to join.
Nice.
I will get to join. Excuse me.
Yes.
You have to do a certain amount, don't you, to get onto SAG, don't you? Projects.
You do. I qualified with The Expanse. But again, right, like, there aren't a lot of SAG projects out here. So I think it makes sort of like equity, like actors' equity. If you're in theater, I think it makes a ton of sense to be part of the union if you're in, let's say, New York, right? Yeah. You would absolutely shoot yourself in the foot if you went to New York and you weren't equity, especially now where you just get pay. That's it. You don't need hours. You don't need weeks. You don't need any of that shit. Just cough up a shit ton of money and you're in the union. Yeah. what a way to dismantle that ecosystem.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But yeah,
So
I think if I was in a different market, I would join.
I was going to ask you with the talk of AI. One thing I keep thinking about, because I'm in the market of composing music or even writing and all that. The one thing that strikes in my mind, and I love how you said that fear, sure, is just your initial response, like, oh man, I'm going to lose my job. The one thing that goes in my brain is that if I'm working for a company that decides to do AI incorporated composed music, I don't want to work for that company in the first place, because that way they're trying to save as much money as they possibly can, meaning that they wouldn't pay me enough anyway. So it's just kind of like, if you're going to go into the lines of, oh, we're just going to use composed music, I'm like, yeah, then I don't want to work with you in the first place. Is that something you feel at some times, or do you feel like a lot of directors are going in that direction of AI?
I think that is a valid choice. Absolutely. I also think that the industry, I can't, I'm having a hard time thinking of an industry right now who is not being impacted by AI and who is not being impacted by sort of like layoffs and just the job market in general right now.
Restaurants.
And
Does it affect consultancy, corporate America? You've worked in that field.
Oh yeah, it's God, dude,
getting bitched right now.
Yes.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah.
And I think that when things look like this, organizations, whether it's a game development company, whether it's a multinational healthcare organization or a FinCorp organization, they bring a lot of stuff in house, right? Like there's like a contraction, there's a halting of spend. And so when I hear that there are organizations who are utilizing AI in a way that doesn't necessarily line up to what I would like to see, I also have to give them some space, because I think it'll change, right? Like that might be what they're doing right now. But gosh, there were like these organizations are reacting real time to a technology that is evolving faster real time than we've seen before. Like let's use the Olympics, for example. Google had a bunch of those ads about AI helping a little girl write a fan letter, and it got such negative backlash that they pulled the ad not even halfway through the Olympics. That ad campaign is supposed to go all the way through. That's millions of dollars that they pulled. But I think that's just an example, a small example of what I think industries at large are doing. Is they're trying something and seeing how it if it works, if it is like worth it to the bottom line to do that, or if their core customers are responsive or not to it. And so I would say like totally fair to make that sort of decision and judgment for yourself as an artist. I would also hope that we're able to give like space and time for like our counterparts in the industry to change, because I am positive that they will. Like the first attempt out of the gate is rarely the one that they're going to stick with. And so I would be super curious if that organization that you were using as an example would continue to have the same thoughts and agreements around AI in next year.
Because that's the other thing. Have you listened to AI composed music? It is.
I have. I've listened to AI composed music. I've watched AI created game, game cinematics, movies, kind of books I've read, and there always seems to be something missing. that I don't.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I don't know if that can be replaced. But I don't know, right? I hope not.
How do you feel about, as like a morality question, in terms of, say, if you became the next big cheese in like Star Wars, you casted as like in the new series as Erika Mori as the helm of it, and you became an iconic character like Carrie Fisher was in like Princess Leia, and then unfortunately passed after many, many, many years, I should add on that. How would you feel like about your rights as like your image, your picture? Because we've seen it recently in like films, people pop up, and I really don't like it. I'm just like, hire someone else to look similar to them, or make some, we're in stories here. We can suspend disbelief, because barring very small cameos, whether it's Carrie Fisher in like Rogue One, for example, very brief, it works, but in other films and stuff, it's just a little bit jarring. How would you feel about that? Would you want to go to the grave and make sure that you don't exist in some generative form in like film beyond your career? Or do you think that you'd rather like keep your legacy going in some way, shape or form?
I mean, I think that's something, that the estates will probably be including, going forward. At this point, I personally would not want to be AI generated in perpetuity in any way. I would hope that, I guess I have more trust in the creative minds of today and tomorrow to work around that in very similar ways that they have up until this point,
because it's done before, like many times in cinematic history. I'm trying to think of like an example. I mean, for one, none of them died, but I'm just thinking Doctor Who. There's a different Who, but like it's cinematically, it makes sense. Canonically, it makes sense. But it's been done so many times in so many decades that all of a sudden, now that AI is a thing, all of a sudden now we can't write around that,
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think it's more just, let's be curious. I mean, God willing, I'm not going to die tomorrow. I've got a long life and a long career ahead of me, and plenty of time to sort of see how this evolves. Honestly, like, what choice do we have? Like, we can either like grip onto like the fear and the unknown of it, or be a part of whatever will be created because of it.
That's the thing I keep thinking of is just like, I haven't made it yet at all, not in any kind of sense, but I just keep thinking about that. It's like, well, what if this, like, what if AI takes over this, and what if AI learns my music and then just takes it on? It's like, you could just do that and just be, just sitting on your couch and playing Balatro, which is what I'll be doing after this podcast. But at the same time, like, then you won't move forward. You'll just be stuck in your fear, but you won't move forward. And you have this nice positive attitude of just like, hey, what is what it always will be. I think Hollywood.
To be fair, I did not have that at the beginning, right? But because of like what I do.
You mean your attitude you didn't have, or okay?
Like, because of
I thought
what
you meant like AI.
No, like towards AI, but because right, like sitting as a performer in games or a voice actor, I think that there's a reason why interactive media didn't strike first, even though our contract was up first, right? Like, I think that there is inherently more risk for this type of work as it relates to AI than film and television performers. And so there was, I mean, a ton of fear. And, my husband is, part of trying to see how do we integrate AI in an ethical way. And so I think it's like a little bit of exposure therapy, like whether you like it or not, it's here. And so there's some pretty amazing use cases for it. I would say less so creatively, right? But still creatively, when you think about like how people are inspired, what it comes from a variety of places. Oftentimes it comes from the art of others, like the art of your predecessors.
Like in context, like let's talk about your husband, like implementing AI. He's not a business, like just only business centric person. He is also a creative. He has his PhD in musical composition.
He is like at his core a creative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
he
not
has
like
his master's
only business centered
in acting, and he is getting he's going to school for composition, for music composition. Like he's a musician. He's like a multi-hyphenate artist, and so the way that he comes at it truly is
from an artist perspective.
I mean, he is that first and foremost. And I think, you know, the other devs that I've spoken to, both at Deck 9 and not, are also sort of looking at it with the end in mind. Like these devs have such like a passion for what they do, the stories that they tell. They're part of it. It doesn't matter where they are in the pipeline. And I haven't spoken to anyone, maybe it's because they're talking to an actor, who is saying like, yeah, who gives a shit? It's going to be like cheaper and faster this way.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the type of games that like a lot of these publishers make. The type of games that like really like speak to like the emotions of their players.
I kind of forgot how much we veered away from Heatwaves here, but like that's just been the natural part of the conversation. But it's funny that you bring up games, and I heard a little bit of thing when my ears started twitching when you said exposure, because obviously Life is Strange is coming back in a couple of months. And obviously Deck 9 is at the helm of Life is Strange double exposure. I see you sometimes liking Hannah Telle's posts, and I see Hannah Telle liking Erika Mori's posts here and there, some kind of thing. But obviously the big surprise is that Max Caulfield is coming back, and obviously Hannah Telle's in that. I just wanted to know what your reaction was as someone who's worked on Life is Strange, especially with Deck 9 at least, but then also to see probably what was very much a bit of a surreal moment for me and Adam as well, someone who's covered the game for like 10 years, to see Max come back as well.
Well, it's funny because like Hannah and I have known each other now for several years because she did move to Colorado, and it was all like very, very hush hush. We've done 2 like 48-hour films together that we had to be very hush hush about because, you know, we couldn't show photos of us filming that just to sort of like not ruin the surprise. And I'm so overjoyed for her, you know, to be given this opportunity to come back and reprise this role that she originated. And that's not always a given, you know, in our industry, especially in games. Like you don't have to have the same actor again. And that can be, you know, really devastating for a said performer. And I'm so glad that Hannah is back again and able to continue to tell Max's story. Like she's such a sweet, kind, quirky, surprising woman. And it has been really lovely to get to know her on both a personal and a professional level.
No, it's really cool.
Sure. No, because like Hannah was my first ever interview I ever did with anyone in
Really?
journalism. Yeah, it's quite. I would say to people, I reached out to her on Twitter, and like that was the kind of starting point for Life is Strange. It was the first ever interview I ever did with someone, and I've like kept like in contact with her where and when I can. Usually bothering her over emails, being like, "Hello, how are you? You want to come on a podcast or something?" But just in general as well with Hannah as well, because like I know she like follows our Instagram page, but you don't. I'm just gonna say that anyway. Well, you know, Hannah.
I will.
Well, I'm waiting for the moment. I got Stace. I got
Yeah.
Okay, I believe you.
Definitely
Well, I wanted to ask
remember
you as well because for Hannah as well, the big thing with this performance as well, more so for Max, is performance capture. And obviously, Hannah has spoken about this, that she did re-audition for this role. It surprises people, but you've worked with Deck Nine. I know people who've worked with Deck Nine. They've obviously had to re-audition for different things because you might not be a specific build and stuff. But did she ever speak to you about motion capture? Because obviously you got a lot of experience with it. Because this was very much uncharted territory in terms of going this realm of performance capture. And she obviously looks like she's nailing every moment of it, because we've seen a lot of funny clips with Max, and obviously a sense of humor has not gone. Obviously some great storytelling and writing there, if anything. But I was just wondering, were you able to kind of like give her any tips if she did ask for them, if anything?
I mean, Hannah is like a real natural. I will say, and we did at the beginning, when we were first getting to know each other, we had, I forget, we like went to dinner or went to lunch or something and just kind of talked about the process of it. And, she talked a lot about how she'd played Max, but this is Max like years later. And, what's like the thread. And I think I remember telling her, like, well, the thread is you in a lot of ways. Like, you originated this character. There is something inherent to Max that like only you can bring. Like another actress certainly, I think, could have, of course, come in and played Max for Double Exposure and done, a wonderful and lovely job. And there is a reason that Hannah re-auditioned and won her role again. It is because like she is bringing something to that role that nobody else can. And so I'm like really excited to see how fans like this, older, more mature version of Max, because I think you can see a lot of times in fandoms that characters that are beloved are often not allowed to change. And when you think about, well, who were we when we were teenagers, when we were 16, 17, 18? It's definitely not who we are in our 20s or our 30s or our 40s. And so my hope is that people who love Max will allow the Max that they see in Double Exposure to be just as beloved, even if she is, she's a woman now. And, what does that mean for the story and for her? And I have high hopes of the Life is Strange community, that they're not going to be like the Disney community who don't let like some of those Disney stars like grow up. But to be, to grow up with Max, I think is going to be exciting for people who have loved the game since the beginning.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the Disney community, because I am especially salty that I don't have a new Goofy movie yet.
Oh, so sorry for your loss.
I know. That's literally the only bad thing in my life, is that I still don't have a new Goofy movie.
I think you're doing pretty good then.
I would think so, yeah.
What did you have for dinner when you went with dinner with Hannah?
So Hannah is vegan. I am not. I wasn't an asshole about it.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, I'm not. We went to this vegan restaurant that's very good. It's called Watercourse. Yeah, in like a cute neighborhood in Denver. And yeah, it was fun. I'm so glad that I got to spend as much time with her as I did while she was out here. And we have like, a bunch of great memories and some weird films to show for it.
No, I'm very happy for you with that. I've seen her in London. She went to a London event recently, and I'm like very thrilled that she's had all these opportunities. It's deserved for, like, I think like people had this assumption that her career would just go off in a direction, but you can kind of just things don't pan out that way just because you have one role. It's happened to people in video games, films, TV. You work in that industry. It's ruthless, isn't it? For that. But I just kind of want to ask you as well, because like in itself, you've had this experience with Heatwaves, you've had experience with Alex Chen. It must and I used to use it as a throwaway question almost, where it was like, would you reprise your character? And obviously the answer was like, yeah, of course I would. But it must give you like hope in the sense that we could see all kinds of different incarnations of Alex Chen in the future, whether it's an older version, whether it's even an aged version. And it must kind of give you an assurance that at some point in your life, maybe you might come along and be able to reprise it in the same way as Hannah, for example, like even if it's a big gap, because there is still a market for Alex Chen. People still like that character. There's currently a comic series, there's Heatwaves, there's True Colors.
Right.
So it must make you kind of like assured of that, if anything. Because I imagine that was something that you saw in the audiobooks. I saw that was some of the kind of ideas that they're exploring Alex's trauma with Jed. She talks about Jed a lot in that. So it's like a kind of like reliving experience. So I imagine you must be looking forward to hopefully one day something like that might happen to you as well.
Yeah, I think that would be a great, a great gift if that ever came about. There's definitely fertile ground for Alex. I think beyond Haven, beyond honestly, like as much as I love the Steph and Alex relationship, I think that there is a lot to explore that doesn't have to do with that romantic relationship. About family and her past. Like how do you come through trauma like that? As the person that you want to be, living the life that you want to live. What's nice about Life is Strange characters is that they do feel real. And it's not ever like and they lived happily ever after type of, again, like Disney bow. Like there is
like a Goofy
there is
movie.
more. Like the Goofy movie, which was like a great complete movie, gotta say.
It was. And an extreme Goofy movie as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would love that.
And just one more thing as well on that as well. How do you think Hannah's like managed? Because you've spent time with her. I'm obviously not saying you reveal all kinds of things about the game, but I'm just wondering, like, how do you think she managed the expectation of coming back to Max? Because this has been a career-defining role for her, and obviously, I imagine the same would be the same if I came up to you and said, "Erika Mori, we're bringing Alex Chen back after 10 years. You're coming back to this role." There must be some kind of pressure and some every bit of the optics at the minute for me. Like every person has been looking at me like, it's Hannah, we love Hannah, and it's like it's Max, and we love Max, and she's showing those charms and little things. But I feel like so much of the focus is on her, even more so than any of the other characters, for example. Like, how do you think she's going to manage this? And like, if you were in her shoes, for example, how would you kind of approach that? We brought Alex Chen back after 10 years, and there was obviously big fanfare for people seeing it. Would you be a bit nervous? Would you kind of like would you just be natural? Would you want your Alex Chen to be older and reflective of who you are at that time and showing more older values? How would you kind of approach it in that sense?
Those are good questions. I mean, I am confident that Hannah has the maturity and the grace to handle the pressure of bringing back this character that is iconic and so beloved. I mean, I have no doubt, and she is availing herself of that grace and that poise and that humility in these these press events leading up to the release of the game this fall. She's a natural at it, and I think because she's just so genuine when you meet her. Like there is an artifice that's just, she is, who is standing in front of you is Hannah. It surprised me that she lived in LA, because I was like, that's me, really? Because she's so genuine. And I don't know if it'll get to her. I know she has a good support system, which is always really important. And she has a lot of support at Deck 9 as well. You know, no one was her a bigger cheerleader for her to come back than the devs who had worked with her before.
I'd imagine,
or who had, who had not worked with her before, but who had like played the game and had worked on creating this, this role in this game for her. I think if I brought back Alex in 10 years, I suppose there would be pressure. But the only thing that you can really do that I think Hannah did in this case was work from a place of authenticity, like you can't try and recreate what Life is Strange 1 was or what True Colors was. You have to stay authentic to who this person is now on the page, and hopefully, have a team around you who sees you as part of the creative process. And I know she had that.
One final question for me, at least from Life is Strange, and then we can kind of move towards this, because I know we've taken a lot of your time, and thank you so much as always. You worked with them for a long time, Deck 9, and especially on the mocap side as well. I know Mr. Webb Pickersgill is currently behind the scenes doing his little magic as he always does, and especially all of the mocap. But I found some of the other footage I've been watching recently. I find it fascinating how even better it's got. For example, I saw that there's a scene with Moses, Max's friend, and he's doing this with his hands. I remember Erika Mori telling me that she was messing around with her ring because she was trying to get it a motion capture, but that didn't come through. But Webb was experimenting thing. But I found that really interesting with Moses. He just seems like he was just showing anxiety, and among many other things, people were saying he could potentially be like autistic because he's stimming or something, like all kinds of different theories. But it creates that kind of character, if anything. But I'm just kind of curious, like, how have you been just seeing some of the footage? Because obviously, Hannah's having a blast here doing all these performances, but in itself, we're seeing her magic come through with the mocap. But I imagine you must be kind of in awe seeing Deck 9 evolve the mocap, if anything, on this project.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing, and I have been lucky. They bring me in quite a bit for R&D. So because I have had so much experience on that stage with those systems, it is a natural fit to bring me in because I don't have to get used to a head rig. I don't have to get used to a certain like locomotion dance card. I already know it. I know just some of like the foundational things about that room that are weird to work around. And so it's been super cool to be part of the R&D process because Deck 9 is constantly looking at, what's next? How do we improve this? Finger capture sucks balls, right? It's really hard for animators. Like there are certain that animators are like, if you want this, if you want the ring twirl, if you want the finger articulation, if you want the hair blowing, you have to want it bad, and we can only do it a couple times, right? Because it is so expensive. It's an animation. And so what this R&D for mocap is how do we get stuff from mocap raw, basically. Animation is next in the pipeline, where we're shortening the time for them to have an animator go in there and frame by frame clean something. And so it's super cool to see what Zach and the mocap techs and Webb and Chad and the animation director Martha come to the table with to say, we want to try this and we want to try it in a couple different ways and a couple different technologies, and then to see the output in a game that's about to be shipped is massively cool.
Cool. Adam, anything else?
I have one last question.
Sure.
We talked about you possibly coming back to your role as Alex, possibly an older Alex. If I were to ask you to audition as Alex at 70 years old, how would you go across to perform Alex at 70 years old?
She's going to sit with her mum and find out some lessons.
Do you need a line to read off, or
I That is super interesting. I mean, I think I would utilize, yeah, a lot of family observations, would we say?
Okay.
Yeah, aunts, grandmas,
Yeah.
mothers. Yeah, I think especially because Alex is, she's of Chinese descent, I think that clearly informs who you are. I would be interested to see like how much of Alex's like Chinese culture she has actually taken with her into her 70s, where she doesn't have her immediate family anymore, right? So like when she is looking for community, what I would be interested in if I got those sides is, what community did she find? Was it important for her to surround herself with, people who shared the same culture that she grew up with? Or was that not what was important to her? I think that ultimately is what will shape that performance. And with AI, you can just pitch my voice up or down, young or old. Like, you do what you need to, baby.
See, those are the types of notes I love. Like, you should just keep going into writers' DMs and keep asking, because those are questions like, well, it would depend on the culture. Like, how have they surrounded themselves with the community? Something you want to think about. So please continue. Just knock on the doors at midnight. Like, writer person, hello.
I'm sure they love it. I'm sure they would love it.
I'm sure they would.
Final question for me. It's the easiest one. I was thinking about this before, and then we'll call it a wrap. And again, thank you for your time. So if me and Adam were standing on the top of a volcano and you had to push one in, who are you picking and why? Now, before you answer,
easy question.
let me say this. I'm your number one supporter. I've always been there in your back. This guy, when we brought on last two times, he's thrown a couple of punches. So I'm just wondering, who would you push in?
That's true.
You can't leave otherwise. You have to push one of us in.
Well, I have a question. Who set Frost up for his 6 out of 10 humor burn on your podcast?
That was actually him.
No, I didn't. No, it wasn't me.
Frost set himself up for that? What a dick.
Okay. I thought you were pointing at me. I was
No.
Ah.
That was just Frost in general. We were talking about you, and he brought up saying she's like...
All right. Okay, who has... like our way...
Adnan is a cat person.
There? Oh.
Adnan's not a dog person. I'm a dog person.
If it makes you solve this question even easier, I'm holding your dog. So if you push me in, the dog's are in with me.
Yeah, that Goofy Movie guy is gone. Are you kidding me?
Come on, that's awful.
I'm holding your dog. Done.
I'm holding your dog.
If you were but it depends on like how you were holding the dog. If you were holding the dog hostage, obviously I would be like, "Oh, Adam, bye." But then,
I'm holding a hostage.
Once I get my dog, I would push you in too. Like, don't fuck with my dog, you weird cat person. Come on.
It's being held hostage.
I was gonna say if it was between you but if Liz was being asked the question, like, "Oh, Liz, by the way, bloody hell, I've got the dog. She's kicking me in. She's kicking me in, my own wife."
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Well,
yeah, but I'm just letting you know he's a cat person.
What a weird question, but I really like that because I have asked that of, in fact, Frost. I've been like, if your wife is clinging on to the edge of a cliff on one end, but your son is clinging on the other, like, who are you going to save?
You
have
asked him that?
Yeah.
And you're calling my question weird after you asked him that?
No, I mean, it was weird, but wonderful. Like, why wouldn't you?
Was this like face to face, or was this just a DM you sent?
No. This is I like to do this face to face because I like to see how they react.
Twitches.
Like a psychopath. Yeah, I like to watch.
I'd imagine Frost is just like ice cold, like his last name suggests.
Yeah, it takes. I have never seen him rattled,
Yeah.
which is great for
Ice in the
being a
veins.
creative director in the video game industry. That's like exactly what you need. But yeah, and he said his kid, and he said his wife would have wanted it that way, and I was like, I don't know, maybe you should talk to her. Like the kid, I shouldn't.
You can make another one. As someone in an infertility group, you could just make another one.
See, this is why I like
I
Frost.
just like you can
He answered the
raise another
question.
one. Like I don't know how single parents do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know how like parents do it. Like kids are rough, you know.
See, this is why I like Frost, because he would answer that question about pushing me on him, and it's going to be that.
I mean, I said I'd push both of you.
Oh well. Well, maybe
Frost
AI.
would
Maybe AI
kick
can
me in,
replace us, Adam.
AI
can replace as well when she pushed us in.
No, they could never replace the heart that you bring to this podcast.
Oh, thank
They
you.
could replace his British accent, though. Let's be honest.
I
It's not even that
guess.
British. It's not even that British. Anyway, let's call it a wrap there before it goes down any more darker routes.
Yes.
Right. Thank you, Erika Mori. As always, absolute pleasure having you on here, and it was great chatting with you. This is the end of our second part of our 80th episode. So thank you for joining us. Again, as always, if you are new here, please drop us a like on the video, share with your friends, comment, help do that, all that YouTube stuff. It helps to support us a lot. And also your podcast is available on all podcast services, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Go and check us out there. You can rate us and download us as well. We actually dropped ratings as well, Erika, because of Adam and his hatred for Stanley Cups, but that's just something I need to remind the listeners. So do go and rate us on Spotify, please, as well. It doesn't really help us. Erika Mori, it's always an absolute pleasure having you on here. It was great chatting with you as well. I'm sure you'll probably hear from me in a year's time from now as well for another podcast. But yeah, you can find Erika Mori online. You can go and listen to her audiobook as well via Audible, among many other things. And yeah, we'll call it a wrap here. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.
Ready for the mosh pit, Shaka Bra.